Welcome to the Comic Sauce Podcast, where we talk comics and comics culture. I am Henry Liu, and today I am joined by Ranier. Ranier, how's it going?
What's up, Henry?
What's up?
How's it going, man? It's been a long time since I've been here.
Yeah, been a little while, been a minute,
Yeah,
but it's good to have you back. And today is June 23rd, 2023, and we're gonna change things up a bit today. We're kind of gonna go rogue today. We're gonna do things a little bit free form, a little informal, and I guess just a brief backstory, I guess. You and I, Rainier, were looking to kind of get back to the roots of this podcast. And the roots of this podcast really are our lunch conversations, right?
yeah,
So we have been coworkers for quite some time now.
yeah, forever.
And yeah, and I mean we've been having lunch like forever. And our lunches are great because we just chat about bullshit and comics and movies and pop culture and just like all the great things in life, right?
I feel like that's the
Yeah.
glue that brought us together.
Oh,
Our
totally.
nerddom, our geekdom. In addition to exploring all the fine eateries that Oakland had to offer pre-pandemic.
Yeah, yes, exactly. I 100% agree. And after a while, we were like, man, our conversations at lunch are so good that we should be recording this shit,
They are worth recording.
Yes, it's worthy of that. So that was really how the podcast started. That truly is the origin story of this show. So more recently the show's gotten a little more structured, and it's become something of a movie review format of a show, which I enjoy a lot. I know Porfirio and Christian enjoy that. But why not get back to the roots of it a bit? So we're gonna sprinkle in these sort of informal chit chats here and there, and just see where it goes. Yeah,
Yeah, the way I see this is that this is a chat about everything you can find at Comic Con, and Comic Con is not just limited to movies. We
yeah,
still have comics, we still have games, we still have art,
yeah,
there's everything anime, there's everything encompassed in pop culture. And I feel like
yeah.
there's so much ground to cover. Why not have an additional show?
Ooh, I like I like how you mentioned Comic Con because whereas you might think of the more formal formats you've been doing as like the panels at Comic Con, this format we're doing today is maybe like the conversations you have in line going to the panels, right?
Oh yeah.
Because that's like for Comic Con and comic conventions, that can be as good, maybe better than some of the official stuff, right?
Oh, I agree. I feel
Right.
like that's the most underestimated thing at Comic Con. Like everyone complains about lines, but dude, like a lot of my best experiences have been waiting in line, meeting new people, discovering new things from the conversations I have from those that I meet in line.
Yeah.
And we've been in many lines together, you and I, and have camped out
Yeah.
many times, and they've always been a blast.
Yeah. Yeah. You meet a lot of interesting characters in line at conventions. So maybe this is a little taste of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So as promised, no set theme, no set agenda. We can just kind of freeform it. Like we were brainstorming a bit and thinking, well, loosely we could touch upon like the topics of the day, whatever that might be. We're going to keep it in the realm of comics and fandom, pop culture, but other than that, it's pretty open.
Yeah. Yeah.
That said, what's on your mind, Rainier?
I can tell you what's been taking up a lot of my time lately.
Okay.
I've been playing the new Zelda Tears of the Kingdom game.
Ooh.
I bought it
Okay.
at the day of launch,
Mm-hmm.
and that game has completely taken over my life.
Uh,
Now, if you played, have you played any of the Zelda games?
oh yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you play the last one, Breath of the Wild? That was like the launch
No.
game for the Switch.
I
Okay.
pretty much just played the first one, the original Legend of Zelda.
Oh,
Yeah.
original Legend of
Yeah.
Zelda. Okay.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I
Going
have to
way back.
say, I think I've stuck with Zelda through the N64, obviously through the Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
up until the latest version, which is what I'm playing now.
Oh, wow,
And
cool.
man, I have to say, Zelda Tried and True is a fantastic game, great story. And what I love about this game is it's just all about exploration. I've been playing since it came out like 2 months ago, and I feel like I've only scratched the surface of this game
Mm,
because the world is just huge. And it's not
wow.
even because there's like an online world component to it, but
Yeah.
it's just it's you're exploring this huge map, and there's just so much to find, and it's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've been hearing nothing but great things about this game and how it's been very like consuming, like you've been mentioning. Like it just kind of takes over your life, basically. Yeah.
Oh
Which is
yeah.
good. That's a sign of a great game right there, right?
I think the last game that I was like really enthralled with was the Arkham series, like Arkham
Mm.
Asylum, Arkham Knight, Arkham City. Uh, and funny thing is, I just got a new PlayStation 5 and haven't even taken it out of
Ooh.
the box yet because I'm stuck in the world of Hyrule.
Ooh. Hear that, Sony? Better step up your game, man.
But yeah, it's been a while. My kids are actually watching me play the game. And I
Yeah.
don't think they've actually watched me play a game as intensely as I'm playing Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh,
So
wow.
we're kind of experiencing it together. It's actually kind of fun.
That's great. Love that.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yep.
Love it.
So that's what's been taking up my time. I did catch the new Flash movie.
Mm.
That's the most recent movie I saw. And then the movie before that was Across the Spider-Verse.
Yes. Both of which I've seen as well. FYI, next week we're gonna do a full review of the Flash movie with spoilers and everything. So today we're not gonna get too deep into it, but maybe we can touch upon it, do a little spoiler-free take. What's your spoiler-free take on the Flash movie, Ranier?
Let's see. My spoiler-free take is I loved it.
Mm,
I really enjoyed it. Um, I had I don't know what my expectations were. I don't know. I kind of try to I don't keep it's not like okay, I don't even know how to say this. My expectations aren't the same way it would be for like Marvel films.
hmm.
I think you know my stance on Marvel films that they sort of copy this sort of formula.
Formula,
Um,
yep.
but DC, it's kind of a wild card. And I think like for a lot of people, they're either really hot or really cold.
Hmm.
I mean, I generally really enjoy them. I love DC. I also love Marvel. Um,
Yep.
so I try to give it a fair shake. But at
Yep.
the end of the day, I love it. I'm a huge DC and Marvel fan, and I can't pick.
Right on. And it's okay to love both. It's okay. You don't have to pick sides, right?
What I'm
But
really
cool.
hating though are the
Go
people
ahead.
that approach me and are like, "Man, I love Marvel movies way more than DC. Like
Hmm.
DC movies, when are they going to get their act together?"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that comes up all the time, and I feel
Right.
like I have a duty to defend DC
Yeah.
films.
Yeah. 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 Almost as if it's like you're not allowed to like any DC stuff because the consensus is that they're inferior to Marvel, right? You like what you like if you like it, there's nothing wrong with that.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we were chatting off mic earlier about how there's just a lot to unpack with this movie. Yeah, I don't think we want to go down that rabbit hole right now. There's just a lot going on with the Flash. I can't say I love the movie, but I will say that it was one of the most interesting movie experiences I've had in a while. In that the movie is completely bonkers. It's insane. It's just really insane. I mean, almost that alone, it's worth recommending people check it out.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's
You
just
know,
really
and
nuts.
all the controversy that's surrounding Ezra Miller, if you can take that all away and just look at the movie itself and him as an actor, I thought
Hmm.
Ezra Miller did fantastic.
Debatable, yeah. My take on that is I didn't like him so much as the lead of the movie as the main character, but the younger version of himself, I liked him in that role. I thought he was really funny.
Oh,
So
that's
as a
interesting.
supporting character, I liked him. So
I
yeah,
that's interesting. Okay,
yeah.
I know we don't want to go into this rabbit hole, but because you mentioned the younger version of himself, so there's the older version of himself. And it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting because the older version of himself very quickly realized, oh man, the younger version of myself is a total idiot. So
Yeah.
now I have to get my act together and be the adult version of myself. And
Yeah.
so it was a very quick, you know, moment of clarity
Mm-hmm.
for the Barry Allen that we know.
Right. 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 Yeah. And that's just, you know, scratching the surface in terms of the insanity of this movie. Yes, Ezra Miller plays multiple versions of Barry Allen, and there are multiple versions of other characters as well. So yeah, let's not get into it too much, but yeah, it's really bonkers and it's a wild, wild ride.
Yeah, yeah.
And not only on screen, but like you touched upon the controversy with Ezra Miller, there's like craziness going on like outside of the movie itself, right? There's Ezra Miller. There is like the, I don't know, superhero fatigue conversations
Oh,
happening.
I have a comment on that actually.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
We can revisit it, but keep going.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll finish my thought here, but like people are talking about the state of streaming and how it's affecting theatrical releases and box office. There's talks of the superhero genre just fading away and maybe video game adaptations taking over. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy big discussions going on. So yeah, it's interesting that this movie is kind of at the forefront of all of that, right? But specifically superhero fatigue. Yeah, maybe we can chat about that a little
Yeah,
bit.
so
What are your
superhero fatigue.
thoughts?
Okay, so do you follow Michael Rosenbaum? You know him as Lex Luthor from Smallville, also the voice of
Yeah.
Flash from Justice League. He has
Okay.
this great podcast, Inside of Me, and he recently interviewed James Gunn. I don't suppose you caught that episode, did you?
No, no, I didn't, but it sounds interesting
Okay.
already.
And what's crazy is that like Michael Rosenbaum and James Gunn, they're like best buds. So I don't know if you caught this, but in the recent, actually in the Justice or in the Guardians trilogy, Michael Rosenbaum's in there.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you caught that.
Yeah.
Um, so they were talking about superhero fatigue, and James Gunn made a very interesting comment. And his comment was, and he didn't say specifically Marvel or DC, but I think you know where he's going with this. He said that he feels like the current state of superhero films are just getting lazy. And I
Mm-hmm.
had to sit with that for a second. I'm like, lazy. Okay. I still see people getting excited about it, but at the same time, I do see people talking about superhero fatigue. And so he elaborated more on that, talking about like, you know, it's essentially the same story that's like churning over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Clearly, he's talking about Marvel and the formula, right?
Uh-huh. I think so.
Which
Yeah.
is, of course, kind of a slap to the hand that provided him the opportunity to do Guardians of the Galaxy, right?
Sure,
But
sure.
I thought about that. I'm like, that's absolutely right. Like Marvel has gotten to a point where it doesn't matter what they put out. People are going to get excited about it. People are going to go see it. And there's this thing where it's like, let's throw a cameo in there, and boom, you've got a successful like applaud hitting story.
Yeah, yeah.
That's partly me like thinking about where his head is with superhero fatigue. But he does go on about like it's more story fatigue than it is superhero fatigue.
Mm,
And I
yeah,
can see that
yeah.
happening because of the McMarvel formula that like a lot of these movies keep sort of coming out, with the same sort of story direction.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily superhero fatigue. You can take the example of Spider-Man. He's been rebooted how many times, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you look at Across the Spider-Verse, and it's a fresh new take on Spider-Man, a really compelling story, and it's a great movie,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you can still tell stories of the same superhero, but you just got to tell good stories.
Yeah. 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 No, I agree with the sentiment there. Like, I mean, it's kind of inevitable, right? Because Marvel Studios was so successful that, like you're saying, whatever they put out, people are going to watch, right? And you can try all you can, but if you have that built-in fan base, it's going to be easy to get a little lazy. Like, well, I could work extra hard on sharpening up CGI in the scene, but you know what? In the end, everyone's gonna watch it, so why should I care? I
Yeah.
don't. I mean that's that comment was kind of dismissive to a lot of people who work hard on these movies, but you know what I'm driving at. Like the motivation level becomes a little less. Like you compare that to like let's say Iron Man, where the stakes were a lot higher. If that movie didn't hit, that's it. That's the last Marvel studio movie,
Yeah.
right?
No
There
MCU.
won't be
No
another.
Marvel Studios.
There's
Yeah.
none of that. Nothing,
Yeah.
right? There was so much at stake there, right? So they had to really pull out all the stops and make the best movie they could. Over time, yeah, it's just the motivation factor diminishes a bit. So yeah, I agree. I agree. Like um laziness. I can definitely see that as a factor.
That's the thing. Like with DC movies, there, I don't think there's like a formula that's being followed. I know that they're probably, I mean, I'm sure they're taking cues from Marvel with the whole shared universe. I think every movie is taking cues
Yeah.
from the whole shared universe situation, but like, I think DC is trying to do it different. And I think it's hitting and missing. But see, I
Mm-hmm.
think they have to take those leaps and bounds, and they do have to take those risks. Otherwise, we're going to end up with the same superhero movie over and over again. It's just going to be reskinned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I 100% agree that DC needs to take risks. They need to try out different things. And like you said, they are doing that. Um, Maybe they need to rein it in a bit and just you know give some structure to all of the chaos because it is chaotic. You really don't know what's going on. Is it a shared universe? Is it not? And it's just kind of unstructured. And I would say they are continuing to borrow stuff from Marvel. I mean, there is a lot of parallels between this Flash movie and No Way Home. Like clearly they were using some of the stuff from No Way Home
well, let's not forget that
in the Flash.
Marvel has taken cues from DC and the comics many
This is
times in the
true.
past, almost blatantly outright.
This is true. 100%. 100%. But if we're saying, well, Marvel needs to kind of get their shit together, well, maybe DC needs to stop copying Marvel because then it's just a downward spiral for everyone, right? So I agree. Keep the shit fresh. Why not?
I think the hardest thing though is that for the audience, like Marvel is the blueprint, and it's
Yeah.
going to be very hard to like change their minds on that. I think that's the biggest challenge. James Gunn continues to talk about like, his biggest challenges being head of like DC, the DCU or DCEU. And he kind of hinted at like they're going to be tying in not just their movies, but their TV properties, their games, their comics. So he's got a huge mountain to conquer.
Yeah, it is huge, particularly with the current state of DC movies, because the last few DC movies have not done well at the box office. So, Black Adam, the Shazam sequel, and Flash all are disappointments box office wise. So, the Flash kind of signaled the end of the pre-gun era, Snyderverse, whatever. So he's got a huge task in front of him.
You want to hear something
So
crazy?
go ahead.
I mean, speaking of James Gunn, have you heard this fan theory about Guardians of the Galaxy 3? Um, I don't know
I don't
how
think so.
popular it is, but it sounds like it's a fan theory.
Go
But
ahead.
someone was talking about how if you look at Rocket Raccoon's story in that movie, Rocket Raccoon is James Gunn.
Mm,
James Gunn wrote Rocket Raccoon to be him in the sense that what this person talked about was when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, the MCU started using the Guardians film as sort of the cornerstone of how MCU movies are to be made moving on from that point. And so James Gunn was a valuable asset. Like that was his original thought, right?
mm-hmm.
And then of course the controversy of his old tweets come out, and he gets chastised and fired, and he's just completely removed from the MCU. And then Disney realizes, oh shoot, wait a minute. I think we might actually need James Gunn. So they bring him back,
Yeah.
right? And so that's a bit of the story of like Rocket Raccoon, right? He was created by what's the guy's name? Is it the creator?
Oh, the high
High
evolutionary.
Evolutionary.
Yeah, yeah,
And he's proud of the success that he made with Rocket and realizes that he wants to recreate that, but also throw Rocket to the side
yeah.
because he wants the clout of being able to recreate Rocket, who had created an original thought.
Hmm.
um,
Interesting.
and then so you start to draw these parallels, and then obviously the biggest slap in the face is I'm going to complete Guardians 3, and then I'm going to move over to DC.
Yeah. Hey, that sounds like a pretty legit theory.
Yeah,
Because I mean, I've heard James Gunn himself say that uh the Guardians character he most idef identifies with is Rocket. So there might be something to that theory.
yeah, I thought
Definitely.
that was really interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So Rocket's near death experience was basically his James Gunn's firing and
Yes,
and Rocket's quote unquote resurrection
yeah,
in the
yeah,
movie was Gunn's rehiring, perhaps. Ah, okay.
yeah.
Well, I've heard crazier rumors or theories, so yeah, I'll buy it. Okay, so another thing we talked about is we don't want to run too long with these informal chit chat shows, so we're gonna keep things moving. Um, so right now we're in late June, so you know what that means? San Diego
Comic
Comic-Con.
Con.
So you and I are going. I mean, we're weeks away. We
Dude,
are
I'm so
weeks
ready.
away.
Myself, my family, we're so ready.
Yeah, this is gonna be great. Yeah,
Yeah.
you and your entire family are going. Me and my entire family are going. We have friends whose entire families are going as well. It's gonna be a blast. Um, this is gonna be a different kind of SDCC. Yeah. The writer's strike is having some pretty major effects on this year's convention. Yeah.
It's actually funny that you say that first because I thought the first thing you're going to say was like, hey, this is the first time we're all bringing our families together.
Well, that too. That's going to make it a different experience, also, right?
Yeah.
Um,
But the writer strike. Yeah,
yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. Writer's strike. So, yeah, you talk about you know timely topical issues. That's kind of on everyone's mind right now. And not only does it affect future movies and shows, but yeah, it does affect San Diego Comic Con because writers and showrunners are they're not only like pencils down for their projects, but they with the strike they can't promote stuff either. So you won't see the writer of your favorite show at a panel at Comic Con.
Yeah.
And with recent news, Marvel, Warner Brothers, and Universal are officially not doing major Hall H panels. So, what are your thoughts on this?
That's interesting actually. It's interesting that a lot of people their expectations of what Comic Con is going to be because of Hollywood scaling back, specifically Marvel, is that they're like, oh great, there goes my Comic Con. Like it's going to
Yeah,
be awful.
yeah,
There was a writer strike back in like I want to say early 2000s, like when the height of like 24 was out, when like Lost was out. Um, and I just remember there were a lot of shows that continued and they just started to tank because like the stories of these shows were just you could tell that the writer's strike was present. And we did attend Comic Con that those years. And man, it's a very different Comic Con now compared to Comic Con then, because then it the Hollywood presence was still there, but it wasn't like the primary headline of like, hey, come to Comic Con and see
yeah,
all of your favorite movie stars and writers. Like that, that wasn't like the bright shining, headline that it is today.
yeah,
So yeah, it's weird. It's crazy how much Hollywood, and this is pre Twilight. I think Twilight is what brought a lot of the Hollywood attention for younger fans,
mm-hmm.
to pay attention to Comic Con.
Yeah.
Um, and now that sort of highlight is being taken away.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I remember it was a big deal when Twilight started doing panels, and there were a lot of like non-comics people showing up for Comic-Con, right? And yeah, since then it's become uh
Less about comics.
less about comics and other the core stuff of the convention, and it became kind of Hollywoodized, right? So no, I'm with you. Like, I think it's kind of disappointing to hear that there's going to be a bit of a void with some panels. But dude, I mean, you and I have been going to this convention for years, and there is so much stuff to do at
There
Comic
is
Con,
like you can't
and
do all of it. Yeah, I think
yeah,
that's
you can't do it all of it anyway. So you find stuff to do.
I think that's a silver lining in all this. Like very much like our show right now, going back to its roots. I feel like in many ways, if Comic Con scales back on the Hollywood stuff, especially like the big Marvel stuff, maybe it gives it an opportunity for other things that don't get a whole lot of attention, to have their day in the sun, highlight some
Mm-hmm.
additional things that Comic Con has to offer outside of just the big Hollywood blockbuster films.
Yeah, yeah. Like typically each year, I'll kind of jot down some things I might be interested in, and like inevitably, like half of it I won't even touch it. I won't. I'll miss it, or something else comes up, and so like, and this is the same thing, like, some of us were actually talking about, oh, hey, we should try to shoot for Marvel at Hall H Saturday this year, and we were all kind of on board, like, yeah, let's do it. But now that it's not happening, like, that's just par for the course, man. Like, okay, that's not happening. Plan B. Oh,
Yeah,
plan B is not happening. Plan C. They would just there's that much to do that there's never any fear that you're going to be sitting doing nothing, right? There's always something.
yeah, yeah. And even if all that stuff was there, like the reality of it is you can't do it all and you have to
Yeah,
make sacrifices.
yeah,
And even what you planned, and we've talked about this so many times, everything you planned, you got, like you said before, you have to have a plan B, C, and D because like
yeah,
it's not always going to work out the way you want it to.
yeah. You could almost look at it as a positive, whereas if it was happening, you might have some FOMO about missing it. But now you won't have the FOMO. It's not happening, so don't worry about it. There's plenty of other stuff to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're staying closer to the convention center this year, right? You're
A
like
little
within a
closer than
within a mile, right?
typically, about a mile away or
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
So, you know, that's the other thing. Like, not only is the programming a big wild card, and just whatever you're going to experience, you're not sure what you're going to get. The same goes for pretty much every aspect of the convention. What hotel you're going to stay at? Are you going to have
Yeah.
parking? Are you not going to have parking? I mean, everything's just up in the air. So it's definitely part of the stress of SDCC, but also part of the fun, because
It's the thrill of
yeah,
the hunt. That's what it is.
yeah, 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 exactly,
Yeah, we're
exactly.
super excited. It's great. My kids are gonna cosplay this year. That's what they're most excited for. Because I think
Nice.
their minds are just blown with all of the cosplayers that they saw last year. So they want to partake. Um, so it's gonna be a
Sweet.
good time, man. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Can't wait, can't wait. All right. Um, so yeah, we're keeping things tight. I think we can start wrapping up. Any final thoughts or any quick questions you want to throw out, comments, anything?
I have to ask you this. Do you know about Tony Stark and Emma Frost getting married?
No, I do not. Is this happening in the comics?
It is happening in the comics.
Wow.
I think, yeah, I think the biggest wedding announcement prior to this was Batman and Catwoman.
All right.
But
Yep.
I actually haven't read a Marvel book in a while. So I was really intrigued to see this headline of Emma Frost and Tony Stark.
Wow.
And I'm actually really curious. I didn't even know they had a relationship. Did you know anything about
Same.
that?
I did not. And I would add that I would have never guessed in a million years that they would get together.
Yeah.
Unlikely
Yeah.
pair.
Curious to see how this wedding fares.
I have a feeling it's not going to last. That's my that's my quick take.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll
We'll see.
see.
Oh, speaking of Emma Frost and X-Men, I watched X-Men Apocalypse for the first time. And that movie's been out
Okay.
forever, and I've never seen
Hmm.
it. You've seen it.
I
Yeah.
have. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Did you like it?
Let's see. I will say this, it was received very poorly. And a lot of people just have talked a lot of shit about it and have kind of pointed to that particular movie as like the end of
Oh,
like the
X-Men?
Fox X movies, right?
Oh God.
Um, but I can't say I loved it, but I did enjoy it a lot more than most people did, I think.
I I actually thought it was pretty good. Like it
Yeah.
made me want to go back and watch X-Men First Class. I still have yet to see what is it? Is it Dark Phoenix? X-Men Phoenix? I can't remember what the movie
Right.
is.
Dark Phoenix.
Dark
Yeah.
Phoenix. I haven't
Yeah.
seen that yet. But I thought Apocalypse was pretty good. Like having been so far removed from, I guess, whatever critical review or, how
Yeah.
trash talk it got. I don't know. Maybe I'm so
Hmm.
far removed from it that I came into it with an open mind, but that was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a similar take on that movie and Dark Phoenix. Both were really regarded as just garbage, right? But I both of them I thought were kind of better than was advertised, basically. And I
Yeah.
don't think either were great, but you know,
Okay.
they were
Just goes to
okay.
show. Yeah, don't
Yeah.
don't let the opinion of a critic
Yeah,
sway you. See it for yourself, right?
exactly, exactly. And X-Men First Class is a classic, I think. I definitely go back and watch that one. I think that's a great movie. All right. With that, we can wrap up the episode. This is Farewell from Henry and Ranier.